This is Abdul Malik Mujahid. Assalamu alaikum. President Trump surrendered himself. He was arrested, fingerprinted, and charged for 34 felonies. What does it mean for our country? Rule of law is being strengthened, or divisions in the country will increase. CNN survey says that 60% of America agrees with the indictment. What does it mean? Finally, America has something on which 60% people agree to. We have with us a professor who is assistant professor of political science at Indiana University, Purdue University, Indianapolis, Professor Aaron Dusso. Welcome to Muslim Network TV.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us why there were hardly any protest.
Well, I mean, my guess is that a lot of people, might be protested out in some ways. Getting to Manhattan can be a challenge for a lot of people. It's expensive, and it's not clear, well, where or when or what are we exactly going to protest? I mean, there were a few people there. There was a few skirmishes, but perhaps nothing as much as former President Trump would have liked.
President Trump did give a call for protest. Are people not listening to him?
Well, there's only so many times you can call for protest. I mean, it's President Trump has called for protest many times, and obviously on January 6th, people heeded his call for protest. But we've seen now many of those individuals face criminal charges and actually be put in jail. So I think people are a bit more circumspect in their willingness to simply go out and protest, just because Donald Trump asked them to. We'll see in the future how that continues to grow. Maybe people's appetite grows again, but we'll see.
Do you think the Justice Department response to January 6th has something to do for people behaving in this time?
I do think that this couple of years now of us watching people being arrested, going to court, and being convicted. Most important part, of course, is being convicted of charges relating to January 6th has made people think twice about it. That this can have real consequences for your life if you go and protest and participate in something that's illegal, which of course would be breaking into the the United States Capitol.
Now, he was neither handcuffed nor a mugshot was taken. So is this case going to establish another norm for people who are formally elected or just for presidents in case another president get tried?
I mean, I understand the need on the part of prosecutors to be cautious with President Trump. Obviously, he has a large and strong fan base that follow him to his word, and the need to not perhaps do the quote unquote perp walk with Donald Trump is understandable. Whether or not this sets a new precedent, obviously, there's not a lot of cases where former presidents have been actually indicted on anything. So I'm not sure that there's a real precedent set here, other than that we probably need to be careful in the public perception of what we're doing here, and be perceived that we're still, again, assuming the individual is innocent, as we do in the United States justice system, and not essentially be perceived as disrespecting him just for the sake of disrespecting him.
So in this way, it is a better tradition being established that you are respectful to people. Do you think our system of justice can be little better for those people who do not have a big name?
Ideally, would I like to see this, the justice system improve for those who don't have money or a big name, because both of those two things seem to help you a lot when dealing with our particular justice system. I don't know that the treatment of Trump will have any trickle-down effect. I would doubt it in a lot of ways, that people just ultimately see these as two different worlds. People who have money, they get to surrender themselves. People who don't have their doors knocked down.
President Trump, it is reported, is raising tons of money because of this. Do you think it is going to help him more in ways that his opposition in Republican primary on presidency will face challenges in standing up and competing for support?
Oh, absolutely. I fully believe within the primary context that this helps Donald Trump, not the general election, but the primary context it does, because it makes, again, him the center of the world. And his opponents are going to be asked questions about him. And in their answers, they almost always have to at least be somewhat supportive. I have yet to see someone, fully attack Donald Trump for this behavior. Nikki Haley has kind of given tepid support, certainly not criticizing. Ron DeSantis is not, it's not out there waving a Trump banner, but he's certainly not criticizing. And so anytime you're running in a primary against other Republicans in this case, or anyone of the same party, you're trying to draw distinctions between you and them. And if you have to spend time answering questions about them that ultimately are supportive of your opponent, that doesn't help you. Doesn't help you at all. And so Donald Trump is going to spend the next year, again, as the centerpiece, the universe with which the Republican primary revolves around. And it's going to be hard for anyone to get any oxygen in that room, to try and be perceived as an alternative to him.
People say that part of President Trump support comes from people who feel white people are being victimized. That component of white nationalism, do you think will be strengthened because of this case? Because this case now is going to be December hearing, and there may be other news. And he was recently at in Waco, Texas, where people who were radicalized because of that were responsible for the Oklahoma bombing. Do you think that element, which cannot protest publicly because they're fearful, will go more underground and do more things which will be harmful for the country?
I would say that for them, they already fully believe in Trump. They already fully believe that he is essentially been a martyr in a lot of ways for the movement, to the extent that there is such a thing. And so this is just going to be some confirmation of what they already believe. So I believe there's going to be a substantial amount of confirmation bias in how we perceive this particular indictment and or trial, if and or when that happens, supposedly sometime early next year. And so these individuals are going to be able to use this as further proof that, again, Donald Trump, who had been working for us, is now being attacked by the very apparatus of government that we've said is bad, for so long. And so, you can see it. You can turn on your TV and see how this individual who was fighting for us, in their words, is now being taken down by the governmental system and essentially eliminated, through trumped up charges against him.
Well, trumped up charges against Trump are coming from other directions also. In Georgia case and the Justice Department, do you see these pileup of cases is going to be essentially a fodder for his campaign?
It always depends on exactly what happens with these particular cases. I mean, in a lot of ways, he's already been indicted. So now that's not going to be new if he were to be indicted on any of these other charges. So the novelty of that can kind of wear off. And of course, then it does play once again into the narrative that they, in quotation marks, are working to take down Donald Trump in any way they can. And so it's easy to twist this story in a way to perceive as Donald Trump is the person who was fighting for us, and now you can see the consequences of standing up for us. And in that case, the consequences are criminal charges, and you're going to be paraded as a criminal and put on trial. So it's I don't see that much of a change among the pure white supremacist kind of movements. They're underground, or to the extent that they can be above ground now. They're not going to have to change a lot of what they do already, because a lot of what they do is all online. It happens, in the chat rooms and in the blog posts and across the internet, where they're able to connect one-on-one with individuals who are already predisposed to agree with what they think. So I think that'll carry on apace, and then they'll just have a new nugget that they can try, throw at people. Look at what happens when you stand up for what you already believe in. And you're not allowed to because it's considered PC or woke.
Professor, so this CNN poll of 60% people supporting indictment, who are these people? I mean, Democrats, but who are the other 10, 12%?
Well, and typically in any election period, even before Trump and that kind of thing, you would see about 10 to 15 at most are people who are essentially persuadable, that kind of go with whatever happens to be happening at the time. And what I mean by that isn't individuals who are essentially the ideal democratic citizen because they're paying attention to politics so much that they're going to find out about what each candidate stands for and the policies. No, these are actually individuals who pay very little attention to politics and dedicate a portion of their lives. So they're actually some of the individuals who have the least amount of knowledge of politics, and they are swayed by essentially the feeling that a society presents. So it's not surprising that you might see this uptick in agreement with indicting Trump right now, because that might be the prevailing kind of notion across the country. But my guess is that's going to fade, as the prosecutors largely don't talk very much during these types of processes, but the defendants can. And Donald Trump likes to talk more than pretty much anyone, certainly any president that we've ever had. And so there's no way he's going to be quiet. So there's going to be one voice filling this void, and it's going to be Donald Trump's for months and months and months. And so you're going to see that number go down.
Do you think Democrats are happy that they will be able to again fight and defeat Trump?
I think that there's little in the world that motivates Democrats, and particularly Democratic voters, than Donald Trump. So if it's a dangerous game you're playing if you're a Democrat and you're rooting for Donald Trump to win the Republican primary, because it doesn't, once you're the nominee, you can win, as they all found out in 2016. So that's a real chance of winning. But I think that, to the extent that we know of, any of the Republicans out there that might actually become the nominee, Donald Trump is someone who can be defeated. He might have in trying to win a general election, he's never been able to win the most votes in an election. And so I don't see why that would change, in 2024. So he's probably one of the Republicans that they could defeat the easiest, because it won't take much to motivate Democrats to go out and vote.
Well, Professor Dusso, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much for having me.
You're watching Muslim Network TV, and continue to look into other items which this network has for you. Thank you so much.